everyone, welcome back to sharoncullenart. Today I'm finally going to get back to doing a painting, and the painting that I'll be doing today is winter landscape taken from a video that I recently watched. I watch a birding channel, and this woman lives in California. She lives in northern Canada, and she takes beautiful video, and her yard, or wherever it is, I believe it's her yard, her property that she walks, is just absolutely gorgeous. So if you're into birds and you want to see some beautiful scenery, go to Leslie the Bird Nerd here on YouTube and watch her, because she's just phenomenal at what she can do with wild birds. Now I put this, I taped my paper down, and somehow I got it on crooked, so I'm going to have to be very careful to keep my board turned so that I know I'm working straight on my paper, or we're going to have a problem. And I'm going to go ahead and just quickly put in this river that I'm looking at. I cannot share this photo because I did not get her permission, and I'm just taking my interpretation of it, the basic scene. There's a lot of snowy rocks here. And off. Okay. So I've got my little river in. I've put it in lightly. I will zoom in so that you can see it, hopefully. If not, then just bear with me and you'll see it come together. Now I'm going to try to keep this angled so that you can see me grabbing paint as well as doing the work. So I have a little bottle of clean water here that I'm using to dip to do my wet into wet, and my other one for rinsing. I'm just taking a flat brush to start, and I'm gonna get my sky put in here. So I'm taking it almost down to the water's edge, but not quite. Looks like my brush is a little bit dirty. Here we go. The paper was a bit dirty too. This was an old, you know what, I can't find my paper. We had to move all of my art supplies over when we put our pellet stove in the basement recently, and we had to move boxes, and I've lost my paper. So until I get moved into my studio, which should be in about 4 weeks, yay, then I'll be able to share a little bit more with you, and I'll be able to find my paper. I'm rationing right now. So anyway, let me go ahead and get started. My colors are Indigo and Neutral Tint, Burnt Umber, Sap Green, Quinacridone Gold, or any yellow you want to use. And then, of course, I'll be using white gouache at the end for some snow. I like the softer look that it gives, rather than using masking fluid, if somebody's wondering about that. I'm going to take a little bit of my neutral tint, put that in there as well for some contrast and color. This picture is pretty white. White all over the trees. The sky is barely gray, but I just want to add a little bit of color to it. Like I said, I'm taking my own interpretation of this, and that should be enough for that. Now, I'm going to take this down a little bit further, and I want to get some trees in. Again, I'm going to take my indigo, and I'm going to add some sap to this. I still want to keep it on the blue side, and these are going to be distant trees. Now remember, your trees, they go on fairly dark, but they are going to lighten, so don't worry about that. Of course, you don't want full strength paint, but you can be generous with your color because it will fade when it dries. And if you're concerned, then just go easy. You can always re-wet and go back. And the more staining colors you use, the easier it is to go back and wash over it without removing what's underneath. Okay. Now we can just go ahead and let that dry. Actually, I want to bring this up a little higher on this side. This is getting closer to me, and the sky somewhat disappears. Okay, I had to stop to help Pat with the studio, get my lighting measured and everything. So I'm back now. I let this dry, and that's weird. There's a white spot there. I had some resist. So you can see how much it lightened up. Now, I've got another cold, my third one in like 7 weeks. So I'm going to hyperlapse this a little more, and I will explain what I'm doing as I go. Now I'm going in with a deeper shade of the green. I'm still using my indigo with a little bit of sap green in there, but I'm doing trees that are closer to me and have more detail. But I want to put some more background trees in, giving them a little more detail. I'm relayering this over and over. So I wet my brush and, or wet my brush. Well, I did wet my brush, but I wet the paper, and I'm going back over some of the areas, not all of it. I don't want to get rid of everything that we just painted, but I want to put a little more detail in. So that's what I'm doing here. And the wetness will still allow it to have that softer look, like it's back in the fog. And these other trees here are close up. Now, I want to go back also and put these tips of the trees in the distance that I didn't have before with detail. So I'm wetting my brush and making it very, very dilute while I'm doing that, so that they look like they've faded back, way back into the background. Then I will let that dry, and I will go ahead and put in more detail toward the front. Now I'm using that same flat Sable and just wetting the area of the river that wraps around this white snowbank. And there are a lot of rocks over there on the left that I was going around with the water. Now I'm going in with just straight indigo paint, but I've diluted it. I really want to wet the entire river. And then I'll go back and deepen some of the areas that were showing up much darker in the photo. Now I go ahead and continue adding a little bit stronger value indigo into the river. The paper is still wet, but as it dries, then I'll kind of back off on that. I will go back and add a little more, but I'll re-wet the paper first, or at least add the indigo and then soften the edges. And what I mean by softening the edges is that I will drop the color in, and then I'll go in with just a wet brush and go around the edges of that paint to offer it a way to spread out and soften. I apologize for my nasally sound. I had to go to the doctor today. I'm editing the video the following day, and I had to go to the doctor. I ended up with a sinus infection. So I sound really lousy, but I don't feel as bad as I sound anyway. Now this tree is much closer up, and it's a little more sparse, so I added a brown tree trunk to it, and then added in a few branches swinging off of the edges, and then I'm going in again with the mixture of green that I've made. I wish I could say those birds you're hearing are right outside my window, but it is winter and they don't sing like that in the winter here. So it is my YouTube running on my television in my living room, and there's a screensaver on that has nature sounds and birds, so that's what you're hearing. Now here's where you're going to see me go ahead and soften the edges. Right there, I put in that dark indigo, and then I went ahead with my wet brush, and I'm just kind of spreading around the edges. I'm going to go ahead and deepen that brown with a little bit of neutral tint. Then I'm going to go back in and add some branches on, and you can do that with a pointed brush, or you can grab your liner or rigger and use that in order to put branches on. This just has a very fine point, so I'm able to do most of the painting with this single brush, and I really like this brush for that reason. I waited almost 2 years to get this brush because they were having trouble getting the Sable they needed to make them. I actually contacted Winsor and Newton and asked, are you ever going to make these brushes again? Because I was waiting so long for it. And finally, they came back out with them. Now on this closest tree, I went in with a little bit lighter green as I move forward in the painting, and I'm warming things up a bit. Cool colors tend to recede. Warm colors tend to pull forward. I have a good example of this in a book that I should show sometime, but I'm warming up the green here so that it's apparent that everything is pulling forward now in the painting. And the same with the one over here on the right. I've warmed that up as well. I will darken the tree, though. I'm going to deepen the value and add some more deep, cool green to it, but you'll be able to see the warmth in this green. Now I'm adding a little more color to the under portion of the rocks. They do have snow on top of them on the river, so I wanted to get the color underneath, and later I'll go back in and add a little more shadowing on that and on the snowbanks. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of white gouache on the trees, and I'll be layering this several times. First starting out a little bit thin, getting a little bit thicker and heavier as it goes. That gives it the illusion of darker shadow underneath because it becomes a little more transparent, and then as it becomes more opaque on top, it becomes brighter.
And you can go in and sprinkle a little snow if you'd like to. Right now I'm using something, this is my favorite brush for snow. It is one of those, I think it's a Faber-Castell eraser, those hard erasers like a pencil. And then the other side has this heavy plastic bristle brush that isn't really good for anything. So it's perfect for snow. So it is my snow machine.
I'm about done. The snow is not quite dry, so if the snow is not coming out heavy enough, I'll go over it again. And it's not uncommon to have to go over snow a few times in order to get it heavy enough. You need enough water to get it off your brush, but too much water and then it thins it down. Now on my distant trees, I wanted it thinned down, but on the close-up ones, I can see it's still a little bit thin. So I'm going to go ahead and work on that, and then I will show you the final picture, but otherwise, we are done. One thing I did notice is that I forgot to put the shadowing under my snowbanks that are coming down into the water, so I just want to do that a little bit. And I'll soften these edges too. I'm using rough paper. This is Arch's rough paper.
I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing to my channel and you'll be notified of my upcoming videos. I should be in my studio in about a month. So February 1st is the goal. And then hopefully I'll be able to put out videos more often again. So in the meantime, everybody, remember, be courageous, paint with wild abandon, but most of all, be kind to each other. Take care.